So we've had some people come up here and talk about data as far as originators, as sources, how they can create better products for consumers to make that experience better. We just had Mosen and Kieran come up and talk about the platforms and how access and use of data, making it easier for customers and consumers. But we need someone to tie it all together and what a good quality data can look like. And next up, we've got Scott McKinley, the CEO of Truthset. Come on up, Scott. So Scott is CEO and founder of Truthset, which is a data intelligence company focused exclusively on validating the accuracy of consumer data, which Infutor uses to score and audit our data. Scott is a four-time CEO, serial entrepreneur, spent some time at Nielsen and doing some measurement, and now he's going to use all that experience at Truthset. Here's your softball question. Why Truthset? Why'd you start it? Give us a little insight into what did you see in the marketplace to really say, okay, I need to create a solution for this?
Yeah, I guess I've always been obsessed with truth and finding the truth in things. It's funny walking over here from the hotel. If you guys walked over too, you went around that circle, that traffic circle right here. That traffic circle was a half mile before the finish line of a bike race, which is the U.S. Professional Road Cycling Championship. And I used to be a bike racer because I thought it was really cool that you just knew what it took to win, and 150 guys would start a race, and one guy would get to the finish line first, and it was completely transparent and it's an honest sport. Like, sports is generally honest. In that race, though, I got second place behind a guy named Lance Armstrong in 1993, right there. And he won a $1 million prize. I got second. And years later, when a deposition got released from his many lawsuits, it turned out that he started doping in 1993, the year that he beat me in that race. All these memories came flooding back when I walked across here. But I quit racing because I didn't want to stick a needle in my arm, right? I was an athlete because truth is a lot more fun than lying. And I went into data businesses because I thought data, it's factual. It's factual, right? You can just take it and use it and do stuff. So I got into marketing and marketing data, spent a lot of time there, and what I found out was that the data is lying. Like, there's a lot of untruth in data. And so I spent a lot of time, 15 years or so, trying to work with data, and finally decided somebody's got to come along and figure out how to tell the truth about data, so that everybody can know what they're working with, and that really all boats can rise as data gets better. So I created this company, Truthset, and I'll tell you guys about it. Let's see here. All right, so we know this by now, right? The world, sorry. The graphics are funny, but the world runs on data, right? Everybody's here in this room because somehow, in some way, your businesses or your services rely on data to understand customers, understand targets, and be more efficient. But the fact is that the data is not as accurate as you might think it is. Some is really accurate, some is not accurate. When we started analyzing the quality of data across hundreds and hundreds of data providers, we saw some really horrifying things. We saw segments that had 5 to 10 times more IDs in it than the census said were available in terms of actual human beings. We looked at, I think it's 75 different data providers who were selling gender segments, and the average accuracy of these segments was about 61%. And then when we went to age, it even got worse, where over 175, averaging 175 providers, average accuracy of getting age right, putting the right IDs in the right age buckets was as low as 32%. And this matters, right? This means that if you're, Unilever, using an average of 75 providers to reach men for an Axe body spray campaign, 39% of your ads and money is going to women. It's a really bad stat, and it's costing you money, and it's causing problems for the consumer who's seeing ads that they don't want. It's an advertising use case. So what we saw right away in analyzing all these data providers is there was a big opportunity to improve the quality of data. I got a couple more examples. This is a true example of one data provider who I would love to call out, but I'm just not going to, who literally just puts every ID that they get a hold of in every segment. exactly perfect distribution. I am in every segment that they sell in the marketplaces. It's complete fraud, and there is zero accountability. These segments are literally up on all the marketplaces right now, being bought and sold every day, and nobody is the wiser. Like, this is a ridiculously bad example. Thankfully, there's only a few of these bad players. We know who they are, and most folks are not that way. But still, even in things as, you'd think like Hispanic data and multicultural data might be an easy thing to derive from name recognition and behaviors and viewership. Even this is really, really hard. I can't read let's just say this is so, Hispanics, here's 4 different providers. This is right out of a marketplace that we're integrated with. 4 different providers. The orange part of the bar is where they got the Hispanics right. The blue is where they got the Hispanics wrong. So this is, really, really not good for anybody. And when it comes to cost, like using an average of the Hispanic data quality that I just showed, if you executed campaigns against Hispanic people or you ingested data to append to your CRM with those Hispanic records, you would be really, really wrong. In an activation perspective, you think you're spending 85 cents to reach those Hispanic audiences on a per 1,000 basis. You're actually spending $5.46 just on data to reach 1,000 Hispanics. You put that against a media spend of $10, you're up in the $30, $40 CPMs, and the agency's gleefully reporting that they got a $12. No. There's an effective CPM which factors in the waste of your data, and it's really, really bad. You need to try to improve it. So, how we measure, what we did is then decided to measure it. And we went out to, maybe surprisingly, maybe not, a lot of companies do not want this level of accountability. But we were able to find a bunch of scaled data aggregators, including Infutor, Expedion, and a few others, who agreed to lean into this new notion of accuracy, record level accuracy for data. And we brought these guys together. We've got a backlog of about 15 companies now, in addition to these 17 who are trying to get scored by us. And what we do is we pull their data together and we run essentially a comparison and validation analysis against Truthsets. We've got 1.4 million people in our Truthset. This is a multi-source situation. And we can basically validate the accuracy of each individual data provider. And we run a voting algorithm, a weighted voting algorithm, to decide for each record how likely every single ID, every one of these, I think it's 3.1 billion IDs and about, it's 3.1 billion IDs and email addresses, to about 900 million. We can figure out exactly how likely they are to be what everyone thinks they are. So we produce a score, which is basically a 0 to 1 score. We cover about 90% of the US digital population, so nearly census, and we can tell you with great accuracy exactly how likely a person is to be whatever that demographic or attribute is that you're trying to reach. So if you've got 100 million IDs and you think you're Hispanic, we can come along with a very simple process and say, guess what, 23 million of these are not Hispanic. You should not be selling them or buying them. You should not be using them. Let's stick to the ones that are factually Hispanic. The service is deployed really everywhere, right? So this is useful at the data provider level, where we work with folks, again, like Expedion and Infutor, to help them understand the quality of their own data asset and improve it. They can now have a benchmark and a measurement stick to tune their algorithms and change their sources to jack up their scores and do a better job delivering what the clients are actually trying to buy. When we look at marketplaces, we're integrated with Snowflake and AWS, Trade Desk, LiveRamp, where we help buyers and sellers, sellers, we help them price their data. So if you were selling more accurate data and delivering better results for buyers, you should charge more for that. And that's a really nice way to improve price rather than driving price down. Right? You never want to be in an industry where the way to win is to drive price down. You want to drive price up. And then for brands and advertisers and enterprises, why do you want to be in a situation where you're just covering your eyes and holding your nose and buying data off the shelf without having validated that data first? I mean, right now you wouldn't go to a gas station and put gas in your car from a pump that didn't have an octane rating on it, right? You wouldn't. Why are you making tens of millions, hundreds of millions of buying decisions and analytic decisions based on data where you have no idea how accurate it is? And God forbid your procurement folks just bought on price, or whoever bought me a dinner last night, instead of actually validating how good is this data. And remember that there's a different use case for quality for every different application. Sometimes you want to optimize for scale, And so accuracy you need to still know what your accuracy is, but you want to stretch the limits a little bit of the aperture of accuracy. Sometimes you want to be extremely precise, right? If you're a hedge fund, if you're making financial decisions, or if you're offering this guy or this group of people a different loan rate versus these people, you really want to have accuracy. And so it's kind of ludicrous that all of us today in the industry just buy data on a hope and a prayer without any validation whatsoever about how good that data is. And that's how it's used. So we take basically any data source, whether there's an ID and an attribute, and you can just ping us through an API or write in Snowflake or write in AWS and find out how accurate your data is. You can profile it, you can find out, it's like a Brita water filter, like remove the sediment, guys. Like you do not want that in your data asset, especially if you're doing modeling. Like if you're trying to create this pristine seed file for some condition or some attribute, and you're going to push that into another file that's going to become a lookalike, the last thing you want is to work with a file that's 30% wrong at source. And so that's what we do. We help basically validate and clean up data files, whether they're small or large, across a variety of attributes to make sure that you are working with the most accurate data you can possibly get your hands on. And let's see, what is this? Yeah, so we see a future where, this is the last slide, just think about the future. I mean, the future, I hope, is that in 2 years, nobody in this room will ever buy data again without first insisting on validating it. I mean, I think we'll look back and say, I can't believe we ever just bought data without querying it, without validating it. It seems like a no-brainer to me. And I think that, the ultimate this is in a marketing context, but an ultimate implementation is we source from, a variety of sources, just like all of you do. We can literally handpick IDs that qualify based on ID level accuracy and compile census level groups of folks with the attributes that you're seeking with 80 or 90% accuracy, instead of this world of just complete lack of knowledge of what we're working with. I mean, again, you wouldn't put gas in your car from a tank that didn't have an octane rating on it. You just wouldn't do it. Why are we doing it with all this data that's powering the entire ecosystem? So that's my story, and I'll be around later if you guys want to chat.
Thanks, Scott.